Struggling with making ends meet? Imagine a world where you can save money by taking the habits of our grandmothers from our past to make our life easier. It's possible, and I'll show you how to bring back these simple, old-fashioned habits right into 2025. Prices have always gone up. Our grandmothers knew it, and we know it. A loaf of bread cost less back in the day, but we're not going back to those prices, ever. That's just how it works. But here's the thing. There's no need to panic about the state of the economy. What we really need is a plan. Hi everybody, my name is Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you don't know me, I am the owner of frozenpennies.com. I am a financial coach, and as a family, we are debt-free. Think about what our grandmothers did during the Great Depression. They didn't freak out. They got creative. They stretched every dollar made, things lasted, and they figured out how to make do with what they had. Those old-fashioned habits weren't just about survival. They were about taking control when things got tough. Like saving leftovers. Repurposing those leftovers into new meals instead of wasting food is a real money saver. My husband tells me I'm a pretty good cook, although I don't love cooking. Where I do excel is pulling a meal out of a hat, like the magician and the bunny. I can take pretty much anything and make a meal. You can look through your leftovers and then ask ChatGPT or Google what kind of meal you can make out of them. Repurposing leftovers into a new meal sparks back to when every scrap of food was precious and wasting it was unthinkable. It's a nostalgic nod to the resourcefulness of our grandmothers, who could turn simple leftovers into hearty, comforting meals. Gardening at home. Growing your own fruits, vegetables, and herbs to reduce your grocery bills. As you can see around me, I love growing my houseplants. My family calls me Inside Sarah because really this is where my growing ends. But I did attempt a few veggie plants this summer. It wasn't all that bad. We got some great produce. We already have apple trees, blueberry bushes, and raspberry bushes. So we just planted some cucumbers, tomatoes, and a little bit of strawberries. Sort of a little bit of a salad garden. It was so fun. One day the grandkids came over and we sat outside eating berries, cucumbers, and apples. That was our lunch. We made that and some good memories. Growing your own food is a timeless tradition that reminds us that simpler days when people relied on their gardens to feed their families. Picking fresh berries for your oatmeal or vegetables for a salad gives us a sense of pride. I hope that my grandchildren will remember this and it will bring back the joy of connection to the earth and to their grandparents. Batch cooking. Preparing meals in large quantities and freezing portions for later use. As I mentioned before, I don't love cooking, so I try to batch cook when I can. I've been cooking turkey broth for 2 days. The first day I pressure cooked it, the second I slow cooked it, and the third I made the soup. Thank goodness for the Instant Pot because I don't know what I would do without it. I'll do the same with casseroles, batch cook them, stews, and even a big pot roast or a bunch of boneless chicken breasts. Batch cooking for me is rooted in being practical, the practicality of yesterday when large families needed meals that could stretch for days. It's a reminder of how planning and preparation helped busy homemakers save time and money. Hand-me-downs. Sharing clothing and household items between family members. When my kids were little, we did this all the time. As a matter of fact, we're still doing this stuff today. My friend Lisa is going through her clothes right now and says she may have some stuff for me, while I'm giving a bunch of my stuff to somebody else. Hand-me-downs work for everybody, not just kids. Sewing and quilting. Creating your own clothing, blankets, or decor items. A few years ago, I created a simple 9-patch lap quilt for all of my family members. My mother-in-law still has one on her bed. And after my father-in-law passed away, we brought his home from the nursing home and my son uses it. Now my friend Maud is an amazing quilter. You can check her out on YouTube and Instagram at The Retro Quilter. She does gorgeous work. Hand-me-downs were a staple of frugal living when families shared what they had instead of buying new. It's a sweet reminder of community and connection, neighbors, friends, and families supporting each other. Budgeting and using a cash envelope system. Managing budgets with cash envelopes to avoid overspending. This is an old-fashioned tip that I owe our debt-free status to. I could not be more grateful to have discovered the cash envelope system. I highly encourage anyone and everyone to do it if they're trying to rein in their spending or get out of debt. Now, I've heard a lot of people use the excuse that places don't accept cash anymore, and I say, find the ones who do, because there are still plenty of businesses out there that will be happy to take your money. The cash envelope system is a timeless budgeting technique that takes us back to an era when people paid for what they could afford, avoiding debt. It's a proven, simple approach to money management that stands the test of time. And if you are looking for a free, printable, downloadable budget planner, I'll leave a link to this one below. It's not going to cost you a penny. Repairing items. Fixing broken household items or appliances instead of replacing them. I just had to fix my granddaughter's ballerina doll this weekend. The bun fell off, and she knows that Grammy Sarah can stitch it up. And I'm always happy to help. Repairing household items instead of replacing them is a throwback to when people valued longevity and cared for what they already had. It's a nostalgic reminder of a time when resourcefulness and self-sufficiency were everyday skills before we graduated to the throwaway era. Thrifting and upcycling. Shopping secondhand and creatively repurposing items. This is my jam once a year. Mama and I go to a big thrift shopping weekend. I highly encourage you to look for secondhand things before buying new. Right now, I'm on a hunt for a round oak table with the hidden leaves inside so I can fit my whole family for dinner. Facebook Marketplace is my go-to, and I have a notification set up. Thrifting and upcycling reminds us of the beauty of giving old items a second life, just as our grandparents did out of necessity. It's a charming way to honor the past while embracing creativity and sustainability. Plus, it's so much cheaper, and the quality is a lot better. What about using hand-me-down recipes? Cooking from old family recipes that use inexpensive, simple ingredients. I have my mother-in-law's recipe book, and I hope that one day I'll have my grandmother's and my mama's recipe books too. My mom still has grams. These traditions and legacies are so special. We should pass these secrets and cooking habits down to everybody else. Hand-me-down recipes connect us to generations before us, preserving traditions and flavors that tell stories of family gatherings in simpler times. Cooking from these recipes is like inviting your family tree to dinner. Rotating meals. Sticking to a meal rotation to simply plan and use ingredients efficiently. This one is so fun. An example would be Meatless Mondays. Focus on plant-based dishes like veggie stir-fry, lentil tacos, or a hearty vegetable soup. What about Taco Tuesday? Classic tacos, fajitas, or taco bowls. You can mix it up with chicken, beef, fish, or veggie options. How about Wacky Wednesday? Try a new unique recipe like sushi night, breakfast for dinner, or DIY pizza using unusual toppings. One of my favorites, Throwback Thursday. Serve nostalgic comfort foods like macaroni and cheese, meatloaf, or spaghetti and meatballs. Fun Friday. Go for casual and kid-friendly, like homemade burgers, chicken tenders, or a baked potato bar. Soup and Salad Saturday. Light but satisfying options like tomato soup with grilled cheese, or a big salad with toppings and a side of fresh-made bread. Slow Cooker Sundays. Let the slow cooker do the work with dishes like pot roast, chili, or pulled pork sliders. Practicing delayed gratification. Saving for items instead of buying on credit or impulse. Raise your hand if you need this lesson repeated once a week. It's just so dang easy to think about something, decide that you want it, order it, and then even forget what you're getting before it even arrives. Giving yourself some time to think about it and decide if it's something that you actually need. It's not only a frugal habit, but it will help us with all of the stuff in our houses. Practicing delayed gratification takes us back to a time when patience and savings were a virtue. Our grandmothers waited, planned, and saved for what they needed, teaching us that good things come to those who wait. Batch errands. Consolidating trips to save time, fuel, and effort. We live about 20 minutes away from a good quality store. Well, any store, really. When I head out to Target, BJ's, Aldi, or Walmart, I'm gonna go do it all in one day. There's no way I'm going over the mountain for just one thing. I'm gonna batch my errands and do it all one time. Batching errands is a throwback to when gas was expensive. Sound familiar? And trips to town were actually carefully planned. It reminds us of a slower time when efficiency and thoughtfulness went hand in hand. Keeping a pantry inventory. Tracking pantry staples to avoid overbuying and ensure nothing goes to waste. Knowing what you have in your pantry, cupboard, freezer, and refrigerator will be your saving grace. Not only will you be able to save money, but knowing what you have will prevent waste and allow you to properly meal plan. Keeping track of pantry staples reflects the frugal mindset of past generations who made every single ingredient count. It's a nod to the days of well-stocked shelves and thoughtful meal planning. Using cloth napkins and towels. Replacing disposable paper products with washable, reusable options. Now, I've used cloth napkins forever. I made my own years ago, and they're still going strong. Some have little chickens on them, some have little utensils on them. At Thanksgiving this year, my oldest son was explaining to my oldest grandson that Grandma Sarah has cloth napkins, and it may seem weird to wipe your mouth on cloth, but it is what it is, and that's what they're for. It was very cute. He's 2. Switching to cloth napkins and towels is a charming return to a time when things were made to last. It's a small act of sustainability that connects us to the resourcefulness of our grandparents. Stoves or fireplace heating. Using alternative heating methods to reduce energy costs. Now, it's not a cheap thing to put in a wood stove or alternative heating elements in your home. But if you can save up your money and you live in an area where it could work, consider a wood burning stove. This would work for us. We live on almost 2 acres, half of which is covered by woods. We've been talking about a wood burning stove for years. And I think in maybe 2 years, we might finally be able to do this. It would be more of an ambiance as well as taking the chill off when the weather starts to turn before we turn the furnace on. Plus, we never know when we're going to lose power in the winter. Ice and snowstorms here are a thing, and it would be a great emergency heat backup. I grew up with a wood-burning stove. Our primary heat source was a wood-burning stove. If you have youth and health on your side, consider going back to burning wood exclusively because it does take an awful lot of work. But that nostalgia thing, oh, it's there for me. Using wood-burning stoves or fireplace screams warmth and simplicity of old-fashioned living. It's both a practical money saver and a nostalgic reminder of gathering around the fires on a chilly evening. Simple entertainment. Enjoying board games, puzzles, or storytelling is a low-cost activity. I just pulled out the puzzles for the winter. I'm getting a little tired of looking at the screen all the time, so a puzzle might be fun in the evenings. I love the idea of putting together a puzzle during the glow of the Christmas lights especially. Enjoying puzzles, board games, storytelling takes us back to a time when families bonded over simple joys. Do you remember Pa from Little House on the Prairie telling stories and playing the fiddle in the living room after dinner by the fireplace? These activities are a heartwarming way to reconnect and unplug. Writing things down. Using lists to stay organized and avoid unnecessary purchases. I'm not sure if I'm getting older or I just have a lot going on or maybe a little of both, but if I don't write things down, I'll forget. I've made it a habit to set an alarm every morning to remind myself to check my calendar. Then I set the alarms for whatever's on the calendar for the day. After that, I have to create a paper list of things that need to get done. Writing things down is a timeless habit that kept past generations organized and intentional. It's a simple yet effective way to bring order to a busy life, just like our grandparents did with their shopping lists and their handwritten reminders. Making homemade soups and stews. Using bones, vegetables, and leftovers to create nourishing meals. I just did this with our Thanksgiving turkey. I pressure cooked it, then I slow cooked it to get all of the broth out of the bones. Then on day 3, I made the soup. I was super impressed with how yummy it was. We ate most of it and then threw some in the freezer for another time. Homemade soups and stews are the ultimate comfort food for me. It's rooted in the traditions of using every part of the meal, and it reminds me of the soups that my mom made when I was growing up. They remind us of those kitchens filled with the smell of broth simmering on the stove. Stretching food. Adding those fillers like rice, beans, or oats to make meals go further. Rice is great for things like soups and stews. I added that rice to that turkey soup that I made, I was just telling you about, because I was afraid there wasn't enough meat in it. And my husband loves pasta, so he's happy with any of that. You can use oats to make meatballs with, and they're super yummy. And then top those meatballs with a homemade barbecue or hoisin sauce and serve over rice. That makes them super yummy too. Stretching meals with fillers like rice and beans is a classic frugal habit that reminds us that creativity of those past generations. It's a simple way to make food last longer while still feeling like a lot of food. Learning to be frugal is one of the best skills that you can have when money feels tight. It's what gets you through the hard times and helps you focus on the things you actually need. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We just need to dust off what worked for the generations before us and put it to good use. So let's bring those habits back in 2025, not just to save money, but to feel more in control, no matter what's going on in the world around us. It's not about going without. It's about making the most of what we have. And if you're looking for a giant list of frugal habits, check out this video next.